Hi, and welcome to what I'm going to call Sonshine Farmerie. I am the owner and creator behind Sonshine Paperie, which is a watercolor stationery brand which takes a holistic, integrated approach to sending mail and creating health and well-being. And so I've decided, because one of my favorite things to do is watch gardening shows, I've decided to kind of start a series of videos showing my own endeavors in my backyard, partially because finding videos that show, yes, I have a helper. Let me introduce my lovely assistant who will be helping me in these videos. Can you wave to the camera a little bit? Wave to everybody. And what kind of flower do you have today?
I don't know.
An iris. And what does it smell like? Can you tell everybody what it smells like? Does it smell fresh?
It doesn't smell.
It sure does if you give it a good sniff in there. Ooh, that one smells kind of peppery. Smells kind of like pepper. Irises are growing in our garden, and I'll take you guys on a short little tour so you can see what all we have, but we live on just half an acre. I garden for the joy of it, and as well as for the practical ability to grow food, but just trying to pick up where the previous owners left off, which was they had some outbuildings, but they were definitely not gardeners, and so there was nothing here except for grass. So I'm just gonna walk around and show you guys what we've done so far. Our budget for gardening is like a big fat zero. So I hope that these videos also can encourage you to like spend as little as possible. Sometimes I splurge a little bit if I'm struggling to get things going, but for the most part, I try and thrift everything. If I can find things for free, like I am known to stop on the side of the road. I'll show you guys some things that I've wrestled into my car. But I want to show you guys what we've got so far and share kind of what works, what hasn't worked. I mean, I tell people all the time, I garden like Thomas Jefferson. We moved here 2 years ago from Central Virginia. We lived about 15 minutes away from his house, and people are super impressed. Oh, you garden like Thomas Jefferson? But if you don't know Thomas Jefferson very well, as you get to know him, you realize that he gardened by planting things, and then it failed. And then planting something else, then it failed. And planting something else, and it failed. So when you read his garden logs, there are very few successes and a lot of failures. And that's what I do. I put things in the ground and see if they work. But finding videos of gardening in Texas has been really difficult. For plants and things that will grow in this area, and so I'm taking what I'm learning and trying to apply it to this growing region. I have sandy soil in some areas of my yard. I have hard clay in other areas of my yard. I've got areas that bake in the full sun. I've got areas that are under deep shade. And so I've got a little bit of everything in this yard, and so it has been a huge learning process for me. We've been in this house 2 years, and so what you see when I take you around is 2 years old or less. A few things I brought with me from Virginia, like I left my yard there with a bunch of holes in it because they're my babies and I had to bring them. So maybe 1 or 2 plants might be 3 years old because I had them in pots. But yeah, let's get started and I'll just show you around. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a sweep of my yard so you guys can see overall like kind of the shape and layout of things and what I've got. When we first moved in, there was a huge above ground pool in that area. So the deck is still there from it. This shed was like a horrible brown color, but it was there already. The playground was there already, but nothing else. It was really all just grass. So we've started from scratch. Some things I threw in the ground to get them going right away. So I brought a bunch of my irises from Virginia, dug the tubers and brought them. So as soon as we got here, I put them in the ground. I found a ton of filing cabinets out in the shed, and so I repurposed one of them into a planter, which was like just the right length for this window. And so I painted it and stuffed it full of branches and logs in the bottom to create like a permaculture layering. And then the top, I found a bunch of good dirt back behind the shed, which was just like years and years and years of composted leaf mold. So that was really great dirt. But we are truly just a work in progress around here. So it's messy, it's not always beautiful, but right now it just seems like everything is blooming. So this is kind of the fun part of the year. The irises are blooming. I got my first hollyhock flower this year. I planted these 2 years ago. So last year the leaves came up, and then this year they are blooming. And then they will self-seed, die, and then next year they'll grow new plants but no blooms. So they bloom every other year. So I got my first hollyhock bloom today. So that's really fun. The irises, I got the white salvia from the Fort Worth Botanic Garden plant sale a couple years ago, as well as the blue salvia, and I thought the freeze this last year had killed them. This is forsythia. It's one of my favorite plants, and so I brought 3 bushes of those from Virginia with me. I had found those for free growing wild, and so I had dug them out of the wild in Virginia and put them in my yard and got them started, dug them up, brought them to Texas with me because I had seen them growing here, so I knew they would survive. I got some strawberry plants from my sister, and so they went in the ground this year. And let's see, what else? That I found growing wild in a field here last year, and so I transplanted it. I thought it was just so delicate and pretty. So it's a wildflower. The chickens, the story behind the chickens. My daughter loves chickens. And so as soon as we moved here, she was begging for chickens. And so we went and got some baby chicks. So these are my girls. They are 2 years old. We've got Maybelline with the white beard. Runner is the one that's real dark. She just walked away. And then we've got Race, Chase, and Tiny. And they're the triplets. I can't really tell who's who. And then this year, because we get bit by the baby chick bug every spring, this year we got 2 babies. These are a couple weeks old, and the white one is Nugget. You can't see. And the black one is Peppermint. And so those are our 2 new babies, and we're kind of addicted. We love them. Chickens, I'm learning so much about them. They're fascinating animals. They're so smart. And they each have their own individual personality, which is really fun. But we just fenced in underneath the deck where the chickens were already hanging out and turned it into a big chicken run for them. I did buy the chicken coop, and so that came as a kit, and we put that together. So we didn't like DIY that. We just put it together. We painted the shed, and I repurposed some mirrors out of my bathroom, which I didn't love there, so I brought them out here, hello, and hung them up on the shed. And then last year, because I'm a greeting card vendor, an artist, last year in the fall I did a market at the Botanic Gardens where I sold daffodil bulbs in a pack with my daffodil greeting cards, and I had a bunch of bulbs left over that didn't sell, and so I got to plant them in my yard. And so this spring they came up and they have just all finished blooming. They were at their peak like 2 weeks ago. Absolutely beautiful. The boxwoods I found on the side of the road. Somebody had dug out and was throwing them away, and so I wrestled those suckers into my yard. My car. They were so heavy because the root balls still had like all this dirt attached to them and stuff. This one, I don't know, is very happy. It's just dying back. So I'm gonna clip it real good. This one has new growth, and so it's kind of happy where it's at. The crepe myrtle I got for free at Arbor Day. They were giving them away here in Azle. The blueberries I did splurge and buy because I really want to have fruit in my yard, and blueberries are expensive at the grocery store. So this one I got this year to replace the one that didn't make it through the summer last summer. This one I got from the Botanic Garden sale 2 years ago. It did not like it in the full sun, and so I moved it in order to rescue it. Hey baby. I moved it to rescue it, and I put it under these trees to give it some afternoon shade. It still gets some morning sun. It's usually dappled shade, and it likes it there so much better. So I'm hoping that it will do well there, even though it's not full sun. The other thing I bought was this beauty berry bush. I'm trying to work on like some understory plantings under these big trees. Because nothing else will grow, but this thing grows in the woods, and so it has these bright purple berries on it. The chickens have already eaten them all off this year. I bought some ajuga a couple years ago, and it is starting to spread just a little bit. It flowered last week with these gorgeous blue spikes of flowers, so those were really pretty. Hello. Our vegetable garden, the arbor was a gift from my mom, and so we moved it from Virginia. And these are my special ladies, and they are in peak bloom. I bought these for myself for Christmas a couple years ago from David Austin Roses. This one is my Desdemona rose. It's a climbing rose. Can you smell it? Let's smell it. I'm so excited. Oh, it's so light and fresh. It's a pale yellow, but it's got some peach in it too. And it has exploded this year. I ordered these as bare roots because they're cheaper that way. So they're 3 years old. So this one's my climbing rose, Desdemona, and this one is Bathsheba, and it's a bush rose. And it has exploded this year too. Like, these were babies 2 years ago. And so I'm so excited and thrilled with how many flowers are on them. The edgers I got for free from a person who was taking them out of their landscaping. So my husband graciously went over there and got them for me. The salvia, the coneflower I bought last year. It survived the winter. I divvied it up. I bought one pot and it had like 3 plants in it. So I broke them apart and they all survived. So now I have 3 beautiful coneflowers coming back. They will be like a peachy pink, I think. The poppy seeds I planted. So my poppies, only a couple of them have come up. The peony I brought with me from Virginia, I found that one in the wild and dug it up. When I say wild, like, there were some abandoned homesteads, like, owned by apartment complexes that were just gonna bulldoze them, blah, blah, blah. So, like, they didn't care that I was digging stuff up. I had asked their permission, and they were just gonna, like, plow it over. So, a lot of my free stuff, like, I dug up like that. The boxwood I bought a few years ago for Christmas for the front porch, but it hated the deep shade, so I've moved it out here where it gets a lot more sun. The mum was like $1 last year at Walmart. They were on clearance and it was fixing to die. And so I bought several that were like $1. Came back, gave them a good drink, put them in some good soil, and they have survived the winter. And this is their 2nd year, and it has gotten so much bigger. And that's what our poppy flower looked like. Yeah, California poppies. I actually didn't see that one bloom. So it snuck a flower in on us and has already dropped it. So the muscari bulbs I ordered, I think. So I did pay for those. So there is stuff in here that I buy, but I try and shop deals, clearance, like as cheap as I can. And this is not perfect. All of this is chopped up leaves from my yard as mulch. So there's weeds in here, and it's just going to take some time to get it weed free. I got a daylily last year, and it was kind of, it was regular price, but the thing with daylilies is that they will spread. It comes back every year, so it was a good investment. And then this is our veg garden. We have 2 veg boxes. And you want to tell everybody what's in here?
We have carrots,
Mm-hmm.
tomatoes, onions, and some more carrots.
Some more carrots, because what do we like to eat?
Carrots.
Carrots. So plant what you like to eat, right?
Yep.
Yep, we got some chives and
Lettuce.
mustard greens.
Mustard greens.
Uh-huh. They do really good here. In fact, they will self-seed and grow wild in your yard. Asparagus, which we just transplanted. We moved them last week, and so they are looking real sad. But come to find out, their roots will grow up to 6 feet deep, and so I did not want them in the box. So I'm learning as I go. So we put them in this trench where they can just take over, and we can have a fern for an asparagus forest if we want. What else do we have?
Broccoli.
Broccoli. What else?
Some more carrots.
Some more carrots. We planted all different varieties of carrots.
Some peas.
Uh-huh. That's, I think, a spinach. We got kale. More carrots.
More carrots and some more kale.
Yeah. The kale did really good. It was a winter crop for us. And then the sage is in full bloom right now, and it has turned into a huge shrub. So I really probably need to move it, but I'm gonna wait till after it's done blooming. And then I may relocate it.
We have lots of onions.
Lots of onions. And what are we gonna do in this bed that's full of weeds over here that we're pulling? I'm gonna pull out all the weeds, and what are we gonna put in there? Some corn.
Cool.
Yeah, some corn. I tried to start some things early in like the milk jug greenhouse, and I only got a few germinations, so I got to do something with all these milk jugs.
Hey, there's something in this one.
Yeah, but we are gonna pull all this, plant our corn in here, and wow, they grow fast, these weeds. But I did plant a raspberry in here. It's down here. I planted a raspberry in here this spring, and so it's coming up.
It's somewhere.
It's right here. So I think it'll like this, and then it can use the fence as a support. We found the fountain in the yard. It was all in pieces, so it's a work in progress to get it cleaned up, leveled off, and working again. You want to show everybody your fairy garden? We like to play with our little fairy garden, but it's still also a work in progress to see what all will survive in here. It doesn't help that the chickens pull everything out, does it? Mm-mm, doesn't help. Okay, we're clipping weeds. It has been a really damp spring, a really wet spring. And so while my irises are going nuts, you'll see all of these spots on here. That is iris leaf spot, and it is a mold. And so technically my irises are hating this weather right now. And I've treated them once with neem oil, but I really got to get on top of it. And I need to come in and probably just cut all of these leaves that have spots. Leaf spot will travel down to the tubers, and in some cases it can eat away at your iris tubers. So you really want to get rid of it. So we got work to do, don't we? Yeah. That one's all finished, isn't it? Mm-hmm. My lemongrass I brought inside over the winter, and so it survived. And so I've put it back out in my window box. I'm trying to just put things that we enjoy blooming, but also that will survive very hot, very dry conditions. It's under the roof eave, so it doesn't get much rain, and this black filing cabinet gets real hot in the sun. So we've got lavender. Our daffodils are already done. The tulips are coming up, but I don't know if they're gonna bloom or not. My sweet peas are loving the cool spring and wet conditions, and so maybe, fingers crossed, they will bloom this year. Here's another one of my coneflower plants. and it's doing good. Another lavender has already started blooming. More daffodils, more tulips. And these are some cool plants we put in some seeds, and I forget what we planted here, but we will find out when they flower. What else did I skip? My ginkgo tree. We brought this ginkgo tree from Virginia, and so I am babying it because I love ginkgos. They turn a bright yellow in the fall and they're just gorgeous. So it's living in this pot because every tree I put in the ground seems to die. So I'm like scared to plant it, but at some point I'm going to have to. And then I'll show you this last area and we'll be done for today. But this last area is literally like, my husband hates me because I just keep planting things in random places. But they always say right plant, right place. So in this yard, I am trying to find the right place for every plant to thrive with minimal effort. So the wisteria, the grasshoppers had completely eaten it last year, and I thought it was dead. So I moved it. I was going to grow it for shade there on the patio, but I moved it over here, and it has come back this spring. It seems to really like this spot, so maybe it will cover the fence, and then it'll be covered in flowers in spring and just make the fence pretty. And then here's some more strawberries my sister gave me. I have spread some chicken manure on them. My mother-in-law told me that her uncle had real big strawberries one year because they fertilized with chicken manure. So I'm trying, but our berries this year are so small and things keep eating them before we get to them. So I don't know that I'll really get a harvest this year. So I'm not super concerned about like the poop touching it. It'll dissolve in and work in, and then maybe next year we'll get a good crop. I planted a blackberry bush in this area, which is why I created the small bed anyways, so that it could turn into a big shrub. But I think that was a foolish purchase from Walmart because it has not come up, and it has been 3 weeks. My raspberry has come up, but the blackberry has done nothing. So I think I bought a dead rootstock. So that's disappointing. So anyways, we're just trying to create something that will provide food for us, and at the same time be a beautiful space that we can enjoy, get in touch with nature, and really just kind of unwind from the fast-paced digital world we live in. Kind of be a backyard sanctuary, but we have got a long way to go. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you'll join us along this like journey of gardening that we are on. And it's just gonna kind of be like my little garden chronicles, and I just hope that you enjoy it. If you love to garden too, I hope that you'll share your successes, failures, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, especially if you're in the Central Texas area. That's where we garden. It's zones, we're in zone 8. And we're just out here having fun, and we hope you enjoy. See you next time.